What is going on, everybody? Hello, hello. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Astro Room, where we discuss everything astrology on a weekly and a monthly basis. I am your favorite astrologer, Mel of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So if you are new to the channel, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. Speaking of channel, this channel is everything tarot, astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you always be notified when I come out with new content. All right, my friends, happy Monday. I feel like this is the first full-ish week of January, right? Because I feel like even though last week was a full week, I feel like this week is when everyone's really getting down to business. I feel like everyone is really out of holiday mode. Everyone's in that new year, new me mode vibe. So everyone's kind of getting down to business. And I can't say I'm mad about that. I like the way the energy feels lately. I don't know about you. Even though Mercury is retrograde, Mars is currently still retrograde, I feel like there is really this energy of newness, right? Now, we're still in winter season. We're still not too far past the winter solstice. So still a bit of time. It's still a time of rest. It's still going to be a time where you're recalibrating and you're recharging your batteries, right? But I feel like things are going to start to pick up. And that's doubly so this week, because Mars is actually going to be turning direct, which is kind of a big deal. So we've got a major energy shift this week. All right. So get your drinks, get your snacks, get your notebook out so we can get down to business and figure out what's going on for this week. All right. So let's tell everyone over on Twitter that we are live so that they can come and join us. All right. Let's see who we have in the house. Rejuvenated, hello, and happy Moon Day to you as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you, my friends. We've also got Patricia Jean in the house. Hello, 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 my sister. Real sister. All right. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. So before we get into the nitty gritty, as always, housekeeping announcements. So if you are joining me here on the live, please don't forget to hit that like button on your way in and feel free to say hello in the chat. All right. And even if you're watching the replay, hit that thumbs up. You're definitely going to like what you see and what you hear. All right. Let's see what else we have. So if you are someone who's interested in horoscopes, if you want to get your weekly horoscope texted to you on a weekly basis, join my text group. All you have to do is text ZODIAC to 855-826-5544. That information is going to be in the description box below as well. You will get your horoscope, your weekly horoscope texted to you every Monday morning. People seem to really like it. It's short, sweet, to the point. Plus, you get some other perks. You get 10% off on my site. You're officially a part of the squad, so you get special perks. You get first dibs on product launches, all that good stuff. So yeah, definitely worth signing up for. All right. And also, if you are new to astrology, or if you would like a refresher, because you know astrology is a lot, right? Astrology is all about research and it's all about memorization. So in an effort to help you get started on your astrological learning journey, I created this thing called the Astrology Basics Cheat Sheet, which basically gives you the quick and dirty on everything you need to know to start studying astrology, namely the 4 pillars of astrology, which are the planets, the houses, the signs, and the aspects. So it's an 11-page PDF document that, again, gives you everything you need to know, a brief synopsis of all of the important foundational elements of astrology, so you can start committing them to memory and start learning. And most importantly, what I love about this is that it gives you the framework to start learning how to read your natal chart. Your natal chart is the most important thing in terms of learning about yourself, learning about your past, learning about your future, but it can be really confusing, especially if you're new to astrology. So this cheat sheet is a great way to get you started and get you on the road to understanding not just your natal chart, but astrology in general. All right, so cop that. If you are interested, the link will be in the description box below. All right, so let's get into the highlights for this week. Or you know what? Let's chat for a little bit. Let's chat. So yeah, like I said, it's not the first full week of the year, right? But it sort of has that feel to it because I feel like last week people were still kind of like hungover from the holidays, right? But I feel like this week everyone's really getting out to business. I'm seeing, of course, whole bunch of motivational quote posts, whole bunch of stuff on like vision boards and getting your mind right for the year. Like, the typical new year, new me content, right? But you can't escape it, but it's actually not bad. I mean, some of it is bad. Let me not say that. But by and large, I love the idea, even though this isn't the natural new year, right? It's the fiscal new year. I still love the idea of having a fresh start, right? And to be honest, a lot of the recent astrology sort of talked about this or sort of addressed this, right? Because even though this isn't the natural new year, and even though we just are not too far away from the winter solstice, I feel like the new moon in Capricorn plus the full moon in Cancer that just passed, both of those were in cardinal signs, and cardinal signs are all about starting something new. And so I feel like we got this injection of new energy, this new vibe, this new frequency, right? Which coincides with the fiscal new year. So I guess it all kind of ties together and all sort of makes sense. But in any event, we've got some pretty interesting astrology this week. And by interesting, I mean prepare to be energized, okay? Because we've got a major energy shift. Plus, we've got some fate and destiny at work this week, plus some relationship stuff. So should be pretty interesting. All right, let's get into the highlights and see what we've got going on. So first up, we have what I like to call fully charged battery. And that is Mars going direct in Gemini, all right? And that's going down on Thursday. So this is kind of a big deal because Mars does not go retrograde every year. It goes retrograde, I want to say close to every year and a half. So it just went retrograde in October of 2022. And before that, Mars went retrograde in the fall of 2020. So about like every 2 years is when Mars goes retrograde. So Mars has been spending quite a bit of time in the sign of Gemini. It first went into Gemini back in August of 2022. Then it went retrograde in October of 2022. And now it's finally going direct now in January. And then it will finally leave Gemini in March. So Mars has spent quite a bit of time in Gemini. So you're going to want to look at where Gemini is in your chart because that is where you're going to feel this energy shift the most, okay? And basically while Mars was retrograde, it was a time to relax. It was a time where you were probably less motivated, had less energy. Now, with Mars going direct, now it's like your battery is fully charged and it is go time, okay? And this sort of works its way into the astrology of the month because by the end of January, all planets are going to be going direct. So Mars is turning direct this week. Mercury is turning direct next week. So by the end of next week, it's really going to be go time and we're really going to be feeling motivated to start new things and manifest some stuff in our lives, okay? Then we have what I like to call relationship issues because Venus has a couple of transits this week. Venus is making a couple of aspects to some planets and to the North Node. So it's going to be a good time for dating. It's going to give us the opportunity to focus on our relationships. And it's not just romantic relationships. It all depends on where it's going down in your chart. But there's going to be some unsteadiness this week because Venus is going to be making an aspect to Uranus. So there's going to be a bit of rebellious nature, this element of wanting to experience some excitement and veer away from your routine. So if you're in a relationship that's not so steady, and I mean, it could be a committed relationship, it could be a friendship. If your relationship is on shaky ground, this week may be a little tumultuous for you. However, Venus is actually going to be making an aspect to the North Node, which means that even if you are experiencing a little turbulence, it's by design, right? The universe never does anything in vain. All right. And then next we have what I like to call eyes on the prize. And this is going to be the North Node transits because it's not just Venus that's making an aspect to the North Node. So this is going to be this element of fate and destiny. These are going to be situations, messages, or interactions with people that sort of put us on the right track and allow us to get to where we need to go. Sort of that fate and destiny element, right? So again, an interesting kind of week, but major energy shifts definitely towards the later half of the week. So let's get into the week and see exactly what we have. So today we've got Venus trine Mars. Then tomorrow we've got Venus square the North Node and the moon in Virgo. Then on Thursday, we have Mars going direct in Gemini and the moon will move into Libra. Then on Friday, we've got the sun sextile Neptune. Saturday, we've got Mercury trine the North Node and Venus square Uranus. And finally, we close out the week on Sunday with the moon in Scorpio. All right, so without further ado, let's get into the week and see exactly what we're working with. All right, my friends, so today we've got Venus in Aquarius at 8 degrees Aquarius. You'll see that at the top portion of the chart. And it's going to be trine to Mars, which is still retrograde, and it's at 8 degrees of Gemini. Okay, so whenever we have a trine, it's two planets are going to be in signs of the same element. So as you can see, Venus is in Aquarius, Mars is in Gemini. So both of those are in air signs, okay? So it's going to be a situation where we're taking a look at relationships, or we're dealing with relationships from an intellectual sort of standpoint. This isn't going to be overly emotional. This isn't going to be about a lot of feelings or even a lot of, practicality. This is really about issues from the past, maybe even communications from the past. Because remember, Mars is still retrograde. Now, what's interesting is that a trine is effortless energy. It's like the pieces of the puzzle just fit together perfectly, okay? It's a positive aspect. There's nothing that you have to do. Things just sort of fall into place. But what I like about this is that Venus is in Aquarius, and Aquarius is all about the future, while Mars is in Gemini, but Mars is retrograde, so it's about the past. So it's almost like the past and the future are melding together in a way that's completely harmonious, okay? So this is, by and large, if we're talking about just Venus and Mars, generally speaking, it's all about desire, it's about sex, it's about having fun. And the thing is, because Venus is in Aquarius, there's going to be this element of friendship, okay? This isn't necessarily a transit that's really concerned with romantic love. It's actually really concerned with friendship. So this is going to be one of those days, well, it's today actually. So if you still have the opportunity to do so, it's great to hang out with friends. It's great for, especially friends from the past, right? Because Mars is retrograde. It gives you this air of charisma and beauty. So it makes you very attractive. So it gives you the opportunity to attract new friends. Like I said before, it's sort of like the past and the future melding together. So this could be a situation where you introduce an old friend to a new friend and now you all become friends, right? It's very harmonious, very friendly. There could also be this undercurrent of sexual tension, right? Because Mars is about sex, and with Mars being retrograde, this is not being able to express your desires. It's like your desires are sort of boiling under the surface. So there could be this sort of sexual tension or sexual frustration that plays out with this transit. But by and large, this is a really positive transit. So this is about going out, having fun. It's not for anything serious, nor does it really foster anything long term. So regardless of what relationship that you're talking about or that you're dealing with or that comes up as the subject of this transit, this isn't like where you meet someone and you may be friends for a long time, or you start dating someone and they become your life partner. This is really just about having fun and really being in the moment, okay? And obviously there's a place for that. Everything doesn't have to be serious. Everything doesn't have to be so, tied down and commitment oriented. And I think that's what this transit really talks about and is really going to play out for us, okay? Venus also talks about, or Venus also governs creativity, being artistic, being creative. And so this could be a situation where you start you start a creative endeavor that you might have started previously, right? Because again, Mars is retrograde. Now, because Mars is in Gemini, this also works really well for creative endeavors that have to do with your hands. So anything that you're creating with your hands will actually really thrive right now. It's almost like your creative juices are really going to be flowing. You're going to have the desire to express yourself, right? And even though expressing yourself may be a bit frustrating, or you may not be able to express yourself in the exact way that you want to right now, I think that the desire is still going to be there. So this particular transit does really well for creative endeavors, starting creative projects. Anything that combines creativity with beauty is actually going to do really well right now. So if you're someone who's into fashion, a fashion designer, if you're someone who paints, if you're someone who makes jewelry, all of those things will really thrive under this transit. Now, it's it's exact today, but this energy is going to be lingering, excuse me, for the next couple of days, right? You may have already started feeling this energy from a couple of days ago, all right? So just because you may be watching this today and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do today? You're telling me this is going on today and I don't have time to do anything creative. Let it play out over the next couple of days. I feel like your creativity is going to be stimulated. Your desire to be creative may also be stimulated. But all in all, it's a really good transit, great for socializing, going to parties, entertaining. Any of those things really thrive with this transit. So it's actually a really nice way to start the week. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, so then tomorrow on Tuesday, Venus is actually going to square the North Node. All right, and you'll see Venus is still in Aquarius. It'll be at 10 degrees Aquarius. And the North Node is going to be at 10 degrees Taurus. All right, and then the Moon is going to be moving into Virgo. And you'll see that at the left-hand side of the chart. Virgo, well, it's going to move through Virgo throughout the day, but the Moon is going to enter into Virgo tomorrow. So Venus square the North Node is a very interesting transit to me, because basically what it boils down to is that certain things that you may be attached to, or certain people that you may be attached to, may sort of be a distraction or may sort of derail you from where you need to be going. Perfect example. You are supposed to go to work, right? And in the morning, your friend calls you and says, listen, I have random stroke of luck. I have 2 tickets to go to Hawaii. Let's just go right now for the week, but you got to go now. Let's go. And you're like, damn, I really have to work, but I really want to go to Hawaii, right? So that's sort of how this transit plays out. It's relationships that hold you back from your soul growth, okay? I know that sounds like super deep, and it kind of is in a sense, right? But what I like about this transit as it's happening now, right? Because as it's happening, Mars is still going to be retrograde, but most importantly, Mercury is going to be retrograde. And this is going to be the key for this particular transit, okay? The key to this transit is that Mercury retrograde is going to allow you to reassess certain relationships that may be holding you back from your soul growth. Now, this doesn't have to necessarily be relationships with people. Depending on where this is going down in your chart, this could be a relationship to things. It could be your relationship to your job or your career. It could be your relationship to money and assets. It could be your friendships. It could be your family relationships, or it could be your committed relationships. There could be whole relationships, or even certain aspects of relationships or things that you are attaching yourself to that just may not be in alignment with where you need to go, okay? Now, this particular transit has a lot to do with our stability and our security, because the North Node is in Taurus. So things that keep you stuck, relationships that keep you stuck, relationships that don't allow for growth, mobility, and evolution, it's like you're going to be hitting a brick wall, and that's going to become very obvious to you under this transit, okay? You may want to fall back on your default safe zone, right? So sometimes instead of moving forward, we kind of stay where we are because it's comfortable and it's what we know. Whereas moving forward requires us to take a leap of faith, or take a shot in the dark, right? So this particular transit may be a little uncomfortable because it may be showing you exactly what is standing in the way of you moving forward, or who is standing. And let me not say standing in the way, because this isn't one of those transits that's going to say oh, this person is stopping me from doing this. Because remember, relationships are just a reflection of ourselves. This is going to show you what aspects of yourself, as reflected through other things and other situations and other people, may be preventing you from moving forward, okay? So I feel like Tuesday and thereabout, so even beginning today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I would say the week, let's just give it the week, right? I think that we're going to be able to see where we are stuck, where we are stagnant, and who's in the same boat with us, right? I'll give you a perfect example. I had a friend, longtime friend, right? And it wasn't until I stopped being her friend that I realized that the only reason why we were friends was because we commiserated about things together. We were both in really horrible relationships at the time. And all we would do is talk about how horrible our relationships were, how horrible our boyfriends were, what they were doing, what they weren't doing. That's all that we could do. And then when I really started examining what I wanted in life, what I wanted to do, and I started moving away from that, our friendship became very tense because she couldn't quite understand why I wasn't commiserating with her anymore. And eventually the friendship fizzled because she sort of wanted to stay in that misery boat, right? And I just wanted to jump ship, okay? And so I feel like for some people, that's how this may play out. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to do with relationships. It could do with things. It could do with money. It could do with anything that you're attaching yourself to that's keeping you stuck. All right. So pay attention to what comes up, to who comes up, to what messages comes up, to what situations come up, because I think it's really going to show you where you're being stagnant, what parts of your life are being stagnant, or who may be holding you back. All right. And then we have the waning gibbous moon in Virgo, okay? And so it's almost like with the moon in Virgo, it's going to give you this desire to be organized and practical. So I like this combination for Tuesday because on the one hand, you're like, all right, I'm taking stock of what's going on. I'm seeing where I'm stuck, stagnant, who is kind of holding me back. And the moon in Virgo is like, all right, let's clean it up. Let's clean it up. Let's get it organized. We want our life to be super organized. We want to be efficient so we can move forward. And you're going to feel good about doing that. So because to be honest, Venus square North Node can be a little difficult, especially if you're talking about relationships that you have with people. Because if you're realizing that a friendship is holding you back, if you realize that your relationship to money is holding you back, it's not necessarily an easy thing to just say, I'm not going to talk to this person anymore. Or I'm not going to engage with this in the same way anymore. That takes willpower, it takes courage, and it may take a certain amount of, I don't want to say discipline. I want to say self-centeredness, but not in a bad way, right? It's really about putting yourself first and knowing that, okay, I want to evolve, I want to move forward, I want to have the things that I want to have in my life. And it's time for me to let go of the things that don't serve that purpose or don't serve my purpose, okay? So I feel like that in and of itself is kind of a difficult thing to do. But if you couple that with the moon in Virgo is going to want to have you getting rid of whatever you don't need anyway. All right. And because we're in the waning gibbous phase of the moon, this is about getting rid of what you no longer need. Virgo wants everything to be nice and tidy and perfect and feeling good and most importantly, efficient. Because if Virgo knows that there's a goal to achieve, Virgo is going to do everything in its power to make sure that you reach that goal efficiently in the shortest amount of time in the most perfect way possible. So I feel like Tuesday, let's just say midweek, right? Tuesday into Wednesday, because we don't have much going on Wednesday. It's going to be about this sort of cleanup, right? It's going to be about us finding, I guess, what works and what doesn't in terms of our relationships, what's holding us back, what's keeping us stagnant, what is some people might even just be able to identify what their comfort zone is. I feel like this transit is going to allow you to really put parameters around what your comfort zone is, so you know what is outside of your comfort zone. For some people, I think that the line between what's comfortable and what's not can be a little blurred because they're not even really cognizant of what their comfort zone is, okay? And so I feel like this is going to let you know what it is so that you can move past it, right? So that you can get ultimately to where you want to go and to manifest the things that you want in your life, all right? So I think Tuesday is going to be a pretty important day apart from Mars going direct, but I feel like it's going to be a time where we can really make some significant changes in terms of our relationships and to who and what we attach ourselves. All right, so let's keep it moving. All right, so the star day of the week is going to be Thursday, because at that time Mars is going to be going direct in Gemini, and you'll see Mars going direct at 8 degrees Gemini, and the moon will be moving into the sign of Libra. All right, so I pretty much alluded to this earlier, but let's sort of flesh this out, okay? So Mars going direct in Gemini. Back in August, when Mars first went into Gemini, and you're going to want to look at your natal chart to see exactly where Gemini is in your chart, that area of life became extremely energized. This is where you felt very motivated. You felt amped. You felt like you wanted to achieve a lot of things. You felt like you wanted to start a lot of new projects. You might have had a lot of ideas, okay? Because Mars in Gemini lends itself to a lot of ideas. You may have been talking to a lot of people, communicating with people. It was probably a pretty busy time, okay? You were amped, you were ready to go. You might have had a lot of mental energy, okay? And so between between August and October, you probably were doing the most. Let's just call a spade a spade. I know I was. I had all of these ideas and I was doing them. Like I was literally doing them, and my schedule was booked. I was booked and busy. I was doing all the things, right? And then October came and I was mentally exhausted, okay? And I think that a lot of people can relate to that, because Mars in Gemini retrograde, it's like your mind is just, it's almost like a fuse shorting, right? Like overheating, too many ideas, and your mind just kind of shuts down, right? And so between October and now, this has been a time of rest. It's been a time of recharging your mental batteries, right? Because Mars is in Gemini. So this may be time. It's not to say that you wouldn't have had ideas. I just think you weren't as motivated to pursue them as you were when Mars was direct, okay? So this may be a time where you started developing ideas, but thinking more about them. Rather than just thinking of something, then thinking of something else, then thinking of something else, I think you sort of meditated on things, and you might have really tried to focus on things, okay? Now, apart from that, Mars in Gemini may have had you being very introspective in terms of your thoughts, in terms of your relationships, okay? Because Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is about communication, and that's sort of the other side of relationships, right? Anytime we think of relationships, we think of Venus, which is correct. But communication is all about how we relate to people. But not just that, what I loved about Mars retrograde in Gemini is that it really showed you where you were spending your energy, particularly your mental energy. So you may have been firing on all cylinders. You may have been developing ideas that may not have been the best in terms of implementation. They may have been fantasies. They may have been things that aren't tangible or aren't necessarily achievable, whether, generally or at the present time. So it allowed you to recharge your batteries, recharge your mind, refresh your mind, right? And realize where you want to spend your energy, where you want to spend your mental energy. What do you want to bring to life, basically? It's also about our communication style with people. Mars in Gemini is all about passionate communication, passionate debate. This could also be a time, Mars in Gemini is also a time where people may get into more fights, more heated debates, may find themselves arguing more. Verbal communication could even be verbal abuse, right? All of that toned down when Mars was retrograde. And so now that Mars is now going direct, all of that stuff is going to come back up. You're going to have a battery in your back again. Your mind is going to be firing on all cylinders, which is a good thing because now you've had some time to rest. But keep in mind, Mars in Gemini is all about fighting words. Okay. So please try your best not to get into fights or altercations with people, because that is going to be rampant, okay? Now, what I find interesting, or what I like about this particular Mars going direct, that it's going down at the 8th degree, okay? And so the 8th degree is the Scorpio degree. So this is sort of where we take a look at some of our old programming, okay? Because Gemini represents thoughts, ideas, our minds. And even though Mars is going direct, that Scorpio degree always goes under the surface. So I feel like this particular, it's not necessarily a planetary ingress, right? But this particular shift in energy can really allow you to examine where your mind is at and what's really running in the background. What program is running in the background of your thoughts? I feel like Mars going direct in Gemini is going to allow you to examine that and really, really like comb the recesses of your mind and bring forth things that you want to bring to life. So perhaps during this retrograde period, you may have thought about things you haven't thought about in a while, maybe communicated with people you haven't communicated in a while, and it sparked something within you. It sparked an idea. It sparked, it uncovered maybe another part of your purpose or your soul's mission or something like that. I feel like with Mars direct, now you're going to have the motivation and the desire to really pursue these things. So a lot can get done between now and mid-March when Mars exits Gemini and enters into Cancer. Okay, so this is going to be multitasking. This is going to be starting a lot of things. But keep in mind that Mars in Gemini energy, like Mars direct in Gemini energy, is very scattered. It's very unfocused. So you may find that you're starting a lot of things, but definitely not finishing them. So keep that in mind. You're going to want to rein in that energy. Try to get as focused as you can on just a couple of things and try to keep the momentum going with those. So again, you're going to want to take a look at your natal chart. You're going to want to see where Gemini is in your natal chart. And this is the area of life that's really going to be energized between now and March. Okay, so take advantage. If there's something that you're trying to start, if there's an idea that you're trying to get off the ground, now is going to be the time to do it. Now is going to be the time for you to really put the pedal to the metal and take those first action steps to bring whatever idea it is that you have to life. Okay. Yeah, but the only thing is that the only challenge is that you're going to find it hard to stay focused and stay on track. But if you can, a lot can be accomplished with this transit. All right. And then we have the moon moving into Libra. Okay. So the moon moving into Libra is going to get you to be very social. With Mars in Gemini, going direct in Gemini, and the moon in Libra, Thursday, Friday are probably going to be those days where you really want to socialize. You may find that your communications ramp up, right? Whereas when Mars was retrograde, your phone may have been dry, your inbox may have been dry. Now you may find that that ramps up. And with the moon in Libra, this is going to be a time where you really want to socialize. You really want to hang out. You really want to relate to people. Okay. And that desire to relate to people is going to be pretty potent with Mars direct in Gemini. All right. So by all means, get out, hang out with people. But keep in mind, Mars in Gemini, fighting words. So be careful of what you say. Be careful of how you interpret things or receive things, because people are going to be ready to pop off at a moment's notice. All right. But even if there is conflict, right? Moon in Libra is all about smoothing things over to establish balance and harmony. So even if you find that things escalate or you're in a heated debate, I feel like it's more likely that things will end peacefully rather than an all-in-out fight or a kind of serious situation. So I think that, because Moon in Libra definitely fosters collaboration, cooperation, teamwork, stuff like that. So I find that even if things get a little heated, I think that everyone's going to want to establish peace in the end anyway. All right. So that's Thursday. Let's keep it moving. All right. So on Friday, we have the sun in Capricorn at 23 degrees Capricorn, and it's going to be sextile to Neptune, which is at 23 degrees Pisces. All right, so Sun sextile Neptune, it really allows you to be aware of your intuition. It's great for your imagination. It heightens your sensitivity and your creativity. But what I like about it is that the sun shines brightly, right? So it can't help but illuminate things. It sort of it uncovers the truth, it shows the truth, and it allows you to see yourself, most importantly, in your full essence, right? And so Sun sextile Neptune really just allows you to tap into your sensitive side. It allows you to tap into your soul, to be honest. And so this is going to be a time of heightened intuition. It's going to be a time of imagination, which means that it's also going to be a really good time for manifesting, because being cognizant of your imagination and really being tapped into that is the first step to manifesting. So I would say that on Friday, it's a great day that you want to imagine. So you want to journal, you want to script, you want to visualize, do all of those things, because I feel like you're going to be in the right frame of mind in order to foster that manifestation. This is also going to be a time of increased psychic awareness and just awareness of yourself, but from a very subconscious, from a very soul level, okay? It's a beautiful transit in terms of developing your spirituality, in terms of developing your psychic abilities. Things like telepathy are going to be heightened. All of those things are always fair game when we're talking about Neptune. This is also going to be a time where you feel a boost in self-confidence and a boost in self-satisfaction by tapping into your spiritual side. And by also tapping into your altruistic side. So it's a great time to engage in charity work. It's a great time to volunteer. Those will make you feel good about yourself, okay? The dream state is going to be very, very vivid. So you're going to want to keep a dream journal, because I feel like a lot of people are going to be experiencing vivid dreams, okay? And things like religion, mystical work, the occult, astrology, it would definitely thrive under this transit. Now keep in mind, we're talking about a sextile. And a sextile is all about opportunity. So all of this energy is going to be available to you. It's up to you whether you want to use it or not. And like I said, I think the best use of the energy of this transit is manifesting. So it would be meditating, it would be visualizing, scripting, journaling, whatever method you like to use for manifestation. I think is going to be Friday is going to be a really good day to engage in that, because you're going to be tapped into that energy. There's also going to be this feeling of being connected to people. Neptune really governs humanity, but more so the love for humanity and the empathy for humanity, right? And so you may find that you're more tapped into that, okay? And I love that the moon is still going to be in Libra on Friday when the sun sextiles Neptune. So there's going to be this feeling of like togetherness, this feeling of empathy, of sympathy, of people really connecting with people on a deeper level. Okay. So it also fares well for relationships. I feel like any relationship started under this transit are going to have a more spiritual element to them, a more soul connection element to them, rather than, something that's purely friendship or purely sexual or something like that. So it's a good time to relate to other people. It's a good time to hang out, do anything creative. Also, it's just a feel good kind of transit. Okay. So let's see, is there anything else other than what I said? Nope, that is pretty much it. All right, let me take a break and talk to some of you guys in the chat. I see some of you guys saying some things. Hello, JS. Thank you for joining. Feeling the push to take various risks. Okay, Hollow. I see what you're saying. Feeling the push to take various risks. Yeah, this is definitely, you're probably feeling, here, let me put your comment on the screen. You're probably feeling that Mars going direct in Gemini energy already, because Mars is all about risk taking, right? It rules Aries. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So there is going to be this element to take some risk, to take some action. It's like you've been resting and you're starting to wake up. It's almost like you're starting to get out of bed, right? And so you're going to feel this push. You're going to feel this desire to want to do some things, act on some of the ideas that you had. So you're probably definitely feeling that Mars direct in Gemini energy already. Okay. Oh, thanks. Oh, thank you, Linda. That is so sweet. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm trying. I feel like you guys get to see me living out my purpose and doing it in the most sort of authentic way possible. Like, I grapple with this sometimes, and I'm really just doing my assignment. So that was such a very nice message. Thank you so much, Linda. All right, so let us keep it moving. All right, so on Saturday, we've got Mercury trine the North Node. Mercury is at 9 degrees Capricorn. North Node is at 10 degrees Taurus, right? And then we also have Venus square Uranus. Venus is at 14 degrees Aquarius, and Uranus is at 14 degrees Taurus, okay? So Mercury trine the North Node, okay? This again, because we're talking about the North Node, it's all about destiny, fate, and where we're supposed to be going, okay? Now, the North Node is currently in Taurus. So this North Node energy has this very grounded and practical element to it. So it's all about solidifying a foundation, okay? And with Mercury trine the North Node, Mercury is in Capricorn, North Node is in Taurus. This particular transit is really about having the right frame of mind to solidify your security, to make your life secure, okay? It's like having your thoughts in alignment with what you are trying to establish, okay? So it's, on the one hand, there may be this reliance on tradition, okay? Especially because Mercury is retrograde in Capricorn. So you may be thinking of, okay, this is what I'm trying to establish. This is what I'm trying to give life to. This is what I want as a fixture in my life. But you're thinking about it in a way that has to do with what you already know, okay? Which is not a bad thing. Even though we're in an age where I feel like every other day, the boundaries are being pushed in terms of what we know, what we do, and all of these things. It's like technology is moving at the speed of light. It's almost like things that are tried and true are not given as much value as things that are rapidly coming, right? I hope that makes sense. But there are certain things, there are certain traditions, there are certain systems and structures that lend themselves to establishing what it is that you're trying to establish in a way that you can have longevity and security with it. I'll give you a perfect example. If you go on YouTube and you look up any videos on how to succeed in YouTube, right? They're going to tell you 1,000,001 hacks. They're going to tell you 1,000,001 things to do. There's all of this new artificial intelligence that's being introduced and making the situation very different, very futuristic, right? It's all about new things, new techniques. Everyone's looking for the next new thing in order to get monetized, in order to be a YouTube star, right? But guess what? The number one rule is for success: consistency. That is never going to change. That is a tried and true ideology that leads to success. And so that's just me trying to explain how this transit is going to work. So if there are certain things, certain structures, certain traditions that can lead to success, I feel like implementing those things is what's going to help you solidify whatever you're trying to give life to. Okay, so it's really going to be about aligning your thoughts with success, aligning your thoughts with stability, aligning your thoughts with building a solid foundation that you can build on in the future. Okay, so Mercury trine North Node, I feel like it's going to be a really good transit in that regard. And then we also have Venus square Uranus. Okay, so I want to contrast this to what I said about Venus square the North Node, right? So Venus is, and it's almost the same sort of energy. Venus square the North Node, it was all about relationships, things that you're attached to that don't allow for your soul growth, right? Same thing with Venus square Uranus. Venus square Uranus may be things that you were attached to, relationships that you were attached to that don't allow you to evolve, okay? They keep you stuck, they keep you stagnant. They don't allow you to be open to new possibilities that could be even better than what you're experiencing now. So it's almost like we're getting a double dose of this energy, first on Tuesday and then on Saturday. So that theme, I think, apart from Mars going direct, I think that theme of whatever's holding you back from moving forward, whether it's a person, place, or thing, that theme is going to be extremely important this week. And I feel like the cosmos is going to give you ample opportunities and ample situations and circumstances to show you who or what is holding you back, who's not allowing you to change. Sometimes the people around us don't allow us to change, especially if we feel the need or the desire to fit in, or we want to be part of a group or be accepted. That may not be the best thing for us, because where we're actually meant to go is so much better than where we're trying to stay, right? So I feel like this week is going to show us that quite a bit, okay? So again, I really want you to pay attention to what situations come up. Like this is conscious living. And I know I probably don't have to reiterate this, because if you're even watching this video, I'm sure you're already on that vibe. Astrology isn't just great for knowing your sun sign and knowing who you're compatible with. It's all about conscious living, and it's all about knowing who you are. Astrology is one of the best tools to help you learn about yourself. And so this week, the astrology is showing you, all right, this person, they're kind of holding you back. Or maybe a situation where even if they're holding you back, the fact that you recognize it, you can change the situation so that maybe both of you can move together. Or maybe you can change the way that you associate or relate to certain things in order to move forward. So I feel like it's definitely a week that can foster a lot of change, definitely with Mars direct. But I feel like with Venus square the North Node and Venus square Uranus, change can happen, but you're going to be met with tension first. So pay attention to what is holding you back. I'm being shown like a ball and chain right now, right? Attached to your foot. You can still move forward, but you're going to get there a lot more slower. It's really about releasing those chains, releasing all of that dead weight around you so that you can move forward to get to where you need to be. So I feel like it's a very important week in terms of that theme in our lives. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, and finally, we close out the week with the moon in Scorpio, which always makes for an interesting time. I say that because I just finished talking about figuring out what's weighing you down, what's holding you back. And then we end the week with the moon in Scorpio, and it's almost like you might almost have a situation where you really dive deep into that theme. So it might be one of those situations where, okay, the astrology is showing you what relationship currently may be holding you back, right? But then the moon in Scorpio may show you all the relationships that held you back, or what issues that you have within you that are holding you back. Remember I said relationships are just a reflection of you. So the moon in Scorpio on Sunday, it's going to allow you to get to the root of that issue. So if you find that you're not able to move forward, or it's almost like you have derailments along your path of evolution, Moon in Scorpio is going to allow you to assess where that comes from. And why do these relationships, or why do these attachments keep popping up in your life? What are they really showing you? Where does it stem from? Where does it come from? Right? So I feel like a lot can be accomplished this week in terms of us being able to move forward and us being able to understand how to move forward. On the one hand, we're going to have Mars direct, which is going to give us the motivation and the ideas to move forward, right? It's almost like a train that's just going full speed ahead, right? That's Mars direct in Gemini. But then Venus square the North Node, Venus square Uranus, as this train moves forward, any roadblocks, any crossings, any cow caught in the tracks, it's gonna show up to show you, hey, this is something that you have in your life that may not be the best for you right now. It may be something in your life that may have resonated with you in the past, but probably doesn't resonate anymore. And it's time to clear it from the tracks so you can move forward with ease, okay? And the moon in Scorpio, again, it's going to get you to examine all of these things. It's going to get you to understand where these things come from, why these things pop up, why you keep attracting people who reflect that same issue back to you, so that you can form a strong foundation, excuse me, so that you can move forward. And this is extremely important, okay? Because we are going to be nearing the tail end of the North Node in Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio. These two nodes, these two lunar nodes first went into Taurus and Scorpio back in 2021. And for 18 months, this theme of building a foundation, amassing assets, getting our value up, relating to people on a serious and substantive level, that's the theme that's been playing out. But come July of this year, the nodes are going to change signs. They're going to go to Aries and Libra. And at that time, we're going to be working on a different part of our lives. So this is the time right now to build your foundation for the future. And so this week is going to be all about our thoughts aligning with where we want to go, and our relationships and whether they hold us back or not. So a lot of these themes, a lot of things related to these themes are going to be shown to us, or we're going to be put in situations that bring these things up, or people are going to reflect these things to us in order for us to get clear, so we can build a strong foundation that we can keep building upon in the future. Okay. So like I said, a lot can be done this week. A lot can be done this week in terms of personal development, in terms of figuring out where you want to go, and in terms of getting rid of that dead weight that's really holding you back from things. Okay. Oh, you said your North Node is in Scorpio too? Oh, okay. So you're really feeling it right now. Well, with your North Node in Scorpio, it's interesting because a lot of the things that we are being told to let go of, because anytime you have the South Node, it's things that you have to move away from. A lot of the things that are coming up that like collectively we need to move away from, it's actually you have to go toward them, because that's where your North Node is. So that's really interesting. So it's a very interesting time for you. It's an interesting time for all of us with everything that's going on right now. But a lot can be done this week if you are willing to do the work. And you're kind of halfway there because you're tuning into this video. So you know what's going on. And when you know what's going on, you can move accordingly. And that's the whole purpose of why I do this every week. All right. So thank you so much for tuning in. That concludes this week's edition of the weekly Astro Forecast. If you would like to book any of my services or check out any of my products, those links are in the description box below. My reduced pricing on natal chart reports and progressed natal chart reports is ending on January 15th. So if you haven't taken advantage of that yet, please do so now, because things are going to change after the 15th. And again, those links are in the description box below. Thank you so much for tuning in. I wish you nothing but the best for this week coming up, and I will see you in my next video. All right, my loves. Thank you so much. Take care, and I'll see y'all next week.